future self shines as a star. I'm ascending as a spirit in flight. Oh, powers of light. I am grateful for all.
Welcome to Off-World with JMC, and joining me today is Dr. Michael Sala, retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox, and Bob Wayne is joining us. We got a great panel and a lot to unpack. President Trump promised transparency. He delivered, as the tranches of off-world activity, I believe 5 now, have been released to the world. And that is good news. Over 1 billion people have already visited war.gov, G-O-V, /UFO, war.gov /UFO, over 1 billion visits. But this is only the beginning. The files are coming in waves, and what they reveal, drip, 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 flood, 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 will challenge everything you thought you knew about history, humanity, and your place in this universe. So let's take a stroll through some of the media coverage and comments from notable figures before I bring on our panel to make some announcements and share with us their views and experience and their expertise. So let's begin with Dr. Greer. Legendary UFOologist reveals next stage of UFO disclosure could trigger a new chapter in human civilization. Next image. Next image, UFO, isn't there? There it is, Dr. Greer, yes. The truth, if you could expand it, would be great. If not, I can get through it. The truth is not only here, it's been suppressed. Thank you very much. This sets the overarching theme that the public is being deliberately kept in the dark about extraterrestrial presence, secretive government programs, the bullet points on the, so he goes on. He's pretty vocal out there. You'll want to follow Dr. Greer. Next image, please. Dr. Phil. We got a lot of doctors here. Dr. Phil slams White House latest UFO files release in fiery statement. All right. What next image? What we're doing is we're just bringing the attention to the subject matter and seeing that it's actually worked its way into mainstream news. Dr. Phil got an exclusive early look at the 4th release. Now we've got the 5th out there of the UFO files. But why, what's his views about this? What's he upset about? We may run a clip on that a little bit later. Next image. Trump orders agencies to waive NDAs. We covered that with Dr. Sala last episode, but it's noteworthy again, especially for those that may have missed it. So again, President Trump orders agencies to waive NDAs for UFO witnesses cooperating with feds. A lot of movement happening behind the scenes. Tim Perchette and many others are very vocal, Stephen Miller and so forth and so on. Next image. All right, UFO secrecy. The Department of War fully supports President Trump's critical directive to waive non-disclosure agreements for former government employees and contractors with relevant UAP info. So, we're turning that spigot on, turning it up. There's an agenda here, folks. There's a plan. Next image. Brazil is going to be followed by many more nations in announcing the reality of UFOs and their ET occupants visiting planet Earth. It is happening. Prepare yourself. Very interesting. Sure, this should be an absolute global, front page global story, and will be over time as the files ramp up in terms of what they're revealing to us. Next image. Daily Mail. Scientists issue warning after spotting more than 20 giant UFOs racing across the moon. Next image. You can see this was one of the images from Tranche 4 that was released by the Department of War. All this stuff is very official, folks. Department of War, President Trump, we got mainstream news carrying this to some extent, and some of them. But here we have an image. The top image is the original image that was released officially in the Department of War file release. And then with AI digital enhancement, we see what it might look like if the image were clearer. That's an interesting thing to be flying around in the sky, wouldn't you say? All right, let's take a listen to film, whether he's 2.0 or the original, I don't know, and it doesn't matter. Let's listen to Steven Spielberg.
This was not science fiction, that this was something that was about the truth, a movie about the unknown being known by some, but not by all, and the injustice of all not knowing when we should know what's really going on here and has been going on for 8 decades.
There you go. I saw the film. It was definitely worth seeing from a lot of different perspectives, in my opinion. Okay, let's run this next clip. And believe me, I'll be bringing my guests on. They're all patiently waiting in the digital green room. We'll make some fresh announcements and then unpack a lot of information. But let's take a listen to this next important clip.
Fox News alert, the UFO vault just cracked open again. The 5th drop from the Department of War. 41 files, and they're juicy. Like this, 2021. Over the Gulf of Oman, a special ops warplane catches something on its infrared sensor. You can see it, that little white dot darting back and forth. The report calls them cold orbs, 4 feet across. No one's been able to explain it since. Then over a town in the Middle East last year, a sensor catches something transiting clean across the flame. Still, no idea what it was. Here's another, this one from 2023. Central Command sensors watching the sky, and then blink and you miss it. The thing rips across the whole frame in about 3 seconds, and it's gone. Then it gets closer. That's one of our own ships down on the water. Watch right the corner. Something crosses right past it. Our sensor locks on and scrambles to keep up. Still, nobody can say what it is. This isn't new. It goes back decades. The files prove it. In 1964, off Puerto Rico, a Navy pilot spots something the size of a fighter jet. His radar clocked it at 4,300 miles an hour, holding for 21 minutes. The CIA ruled out every plane we had, and nothing since comes even close. And when there's no footage, the FBI draws it straight from the people who saw it. June 2002, over Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan, a service member watches the stars start blinking out. Something huge passing overhead, west to east, a perfect triangle, 500 feet across, deadly silent, steady speed, not a single light on it. The guy next to him saw it too. He turned and said, "Did you see that?" 2011, 2 more service members, another sighting. Where it happened, the government still won't say. 2023, now it's over an American backyard. A former defense employee on his porch when a silent triangle drops as low as 300 feet. No wings, no engine, no rumble. He said if it hadn't been a clear night, he never would have caught it. Gone in 4 seconds. Same city, same year, another witness, another black triangle. This one's pixelated, kind of distorted, with a red light burning in each 3 of the corners. Whatever these are, they keep showing up where they absolutely shouldn't.
We've had repeated instances of something operating in the airspace over restricted nuclear facilities, and it's not ours, and we don't know whose it is. That alone, just that statement alone, deserves inquiry, deserves attention.
Rubio and I are aligned 100%. We do not find it acceptable to have unknown aerial phenomenon.
It's just not an issue, at least as of yet, in this country that lends itself to some sort of partisan or ideological divide.
But the wildest one isn't even from this century. 1963, Brazil. A metal sphere crashes down in a small town, blasting a hole 13 feet deep. Thick glass windows, big enough they figured someone was flying it. There was supposedly a body inside, a dead crewman in a heavy suit marked with symbols nobody could read. Wild enough that our embassy fired off a cable to Washington, and State and Pentagon and NASA all started chasing it for 6 days. They never found the sphere, never found a body, never found a witness. One local newspaper ran it under the headline, "The airship that wasn't there." Strange. And that's just one dump. There's plenty more where that came from. Experts say a chosen few inside the government are the gatekeepers, guarding what's really been found and what they know. Be sure to...
Dr. Michael Salla is an internationally recognized scholar in global politics, conflict resolution, and U.S. foreign policy. He's taught at universities in the United States, Australia, including American University in Washington, D.C. Today, he is known as a pioneer in the development of the field of exopolitics, which we'll touch on, the study of the main actors institutions, and political processes associated with extraterrestrial life. He has been a guest on hundreds of radio and TV shows, including Ancient Aliens, Coast to Coast AM, Redacted, and featured at national and international conferences. We've been fortunate to have Dr. Sala join us last month and returning this month. We appreciate him being here. His Amazon best-selling book series, Secret Space Program, has made him a leading voice in the truth movement on this subject. You can visit www.exopolitics.org. You'll see that up on the screen later. Also joining us today, another returning guest, first-time guest here, though, on Off-World is our good friend, retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox. Tom is retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel with extensive experience in logistics, finance, procurement, and large-scale systems management across decades of military and Department of Defense service. He has quite the extensive bio. His bio can be read by visiting jmcbroadcasting.com. Click on contributors, and you'll see Tom's face there, his biography, and an email address if you want to correspond with the Colonel. All right, so welcome our guests. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. You know, I ran a lot of mainstream clips, memes, and digital images and some video clips, because it really, maybe people are missing this, but there were some powerful insights, in my opinion, stated, particularly by Jesse Waters and Rubio. There's a lot going on here. What are your? We'll go with Colonel Tom Lennox. Any brief commentary before we start getting into the weeds about what I've covered in that brief monologue?
I personally have seen a couple of things when I was driving back from Florida 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. They were obviously coming out of the clouds, disappeared very quickly, and I saw one picture taken off of somebody's balcony that showed a ship coming towards the balcony and then disappeared. So that's from a very visual standpoint, but from the spiritual standpoint and from a old financial guy's standpoint, there is no way we can do the things we're getting ready to do without off-world help because of the technology.
Thank you, sir. And to feed that notion to our viewers, I just met with Juan O'Savin about not even 2 weeks ago, face-to-face for a 9-hour discussion in Bangkok. Always good to see Juan. And I raised the issue of Antarctica, and what it led to was a discussion about what's under there and what kind of events have been avoided on their behalf, on our behalf, by them over these years, as well as some other information. But we'll jump around on that a little bit later. Dr. Sala, thank you for being here, sir. Any brief commentary on what I've covered thus far?
Yes, in that fifth tranche of files dropped on the Department of War website, you showed that FBI rendition of a black triangular-shaped craft flying or hovering over Bagram base there in Afghanistan. Well, people may not be aware that in the late 1980s, there were sightings of similar craft over Belgium, places like Scotland, and that there was a retired aerospace engineer, Edgar Fouché, who came forward and revealed for the first time that these black triangular craft that were approximately 600 feet wide used a particular type of anti-gravity propulsion system using atomic engines and also spinning hot plasma in a circuit that achieves revolutions over 60,000 revolutions per minute to be able to achieve the lift, and that this is part of the covert space fleet that has been developed. They're called TR-3Bs, and that this is not an alien craft. It's actually a reverse engineered US military corporate craft.
Wow, that says quite a bit. I'm sorry I missed it, or maybe you didn't allude to it, but when was that? What period of time? What year span?
We're talking late 1980s that these
Okay,
craft
wow.
were uh, being deployed out of an Area 51, a base known as S4. According to Edgar Fouché, who worked at Area 51, he said that's when they had been secretly developed and deployed in late 1980s.
Wow, thank you. I have a short clip I'd like to run and then have you and the Colonel discuss this with us. And it's going to basically lead us to a discussion on a lot of different aspects. One is why should we fear, or should we fear, this disclosure? Let's run this clip to our producer.
I wanted to talk to you about what motivates you to start these businesses. And one thing that struck me was you have big ambitions. You know, we say SpaceX takes 80% of payload to space, but that's not actually the ambition of SpaceX. Like, what is the ambition of SpaceX?
The goal of SpaceX is to make life multiplanetary in order to extend the probable lifespan of consciousness. That's been the goal from the beginning. You can see videos of me talking about this 20 years ago. So in order to do that, we need to transport a lot of people and equipment to Mars. And if we're able to do so, then we will get past the Fermi filter of being a single planet civilization, which is a precarious situation. You know, if we're, like I said, if we're a multi-planet civilization, the probable lifespan of civilization is much greater. And once we're a multi-planet civilization, we can then extend beyond our solar system and try to go to other star systems, get out there and explore the galaxy, and find perhaps we'll find many long dead one-planet civilizations out there among the stars. But I'm just, you know, for me, I'm motivated by curiosity about the nature of the universe. You know, where are the aliens? Are there aliens? How does where do universes come from? How do they end? Are we in a multiverse? Or what are even the right questions to ask?
The right questions to ask what?
Well,
an alien?
Well, Douglas Adams in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the point he was making, one of the points he was making, Douglas Adams was making in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, is that the answer is the easy part, the question is the hard part. So, what I think we want to do is expand the scope and scale of consciousness to better understand what questions to ask about the answer that is the universe.
Leave it up to Elon Musk to take a subject to the next stratosphere. But he said something there, folks, that I'd like our panel to weigh in on. Single planet civilization will end up being a single planet civilization, and he alluded to that being problematic. What do you make of that, Dr. Salo, or anything else that Elon just dropped there for us?
Well, Elon is on the record for wanting to create bases on the Mars and to use his SpaceX rocket, or the Starship in particular, to be able to ferry humans and resources over to Mars. And he has announced also that he has plans for developing these gigafactories in Texas and Florida that could produce 1,000 Starships a year. So he's saying that using conventional rocket technologies where you have these reusable starships, that you could actually build a interplanetary civilization just using those open source technologies. And he's very careful not to speculate about what are these classified propulsion systems, because that TR-3B I mentioned earlier, that uses a very different propulsion system to rocket technologies. It spins plasma, mercury plasma, at very high pressure, at very high temperatures. at above 60,000 revolutions per minute, and that creates an anti-gravity effect whereby the craft loses weight. And so that kind of technology has been used in covert programs since the late 1980s, but it hasn't been released to the public, and that's for national security reasons. So what Elon Musk is talking about is just using these known rocket propulsion technologies, we could become an interplanetary civilization. Once you go a step further and you start declassifying some of these reverse engineered craft using exotic propulsion systems like the TR-3B, then we jump from being a interplanetary civilization to becoming an interstellar civilization.
Wow, what an incredible time to be alive here with all we have going on in our, what I call global defense war here on the ground, restoring our constitutional republic and setting humanity on a much needed course correction. Thank you, President Trump and the military and our white hats. But boy, we got a lot going on. We're talking about other universes at this point. Colonel Lennox, how would you like to weigh in? Anything that Elon Musk may have stirred up in you?
Elon is talking old technology, assuming that we are working very closely with, are already working very closely in the alliance with the Galactic Federation. I would say that he's 50 years behind the times.
Wow.
That's my estimate. I think we're already on Mars. I know there are people already on the moon. I know that Trump has been off-world, probably been to Jupiter, the home of the Galactic Federation. So Elon is couching his words very carefully.
Got it. Wow. So let's any one of those one sentences you just dropped are headlines for the century, in my opinion. Let's talk about the Galactic Federation from an education standpoint. We'll go to Dr. Sala. We'll come back to Colonel Lennox. How would you define, Dr. Sala, the Galactic Federation? What do you know about it? Anything you can unpack for us, and then we'll have Colonel Lennox do the same. And these portals, Tom has shared with us in the past on another program, the people going through these portals to the other side and working with them as part of the alliance. And folks, I'll refrain from invoking comments by others that aren't on the broadcast right now, but they feed this narrative very, very much so. Dr. Sala, what's your views, and what is the Galactic Federation?
Well, the Galactic Federation is one organization out of many. I mean, just as we on planet Earth organize at an international level in terms of you have the United Nations, the European Union, the African Union, you have these different organizations that nation states create. Well, the same thing happens in interstellar space, where you have these different civilizations from different worlds that organize themselves on common principles. And some of those are more benign, friendly, wanting to promote a common set of values. So the Galactic Federation probably is the one organization that most closely approximates with kind of like Western democratic values in terms of understanding human rights, promoting freedom, these democratic values. And they have been making contact with humanity for a long time. But we know from a number of high-level sources, and one in particular is a former Israeli space scientist, Professor Haim Eshed, who was the father of Israel's spy satellite program. He explicitly said that the Trump administration was working with the Galactic Federation, and that the Federation and the US administration have a base on Mars. So that right there is telling you that the Federation and the classified branch of the US military are collaborating in creating these bases on planets like Mars and also deeper into space, such as the Colonel mentioned, Jupiter, Ganymede. We know that there are bases on Ganymede that are resourced and manned by personnel from the US and other nations that are cooperating in this venture. So there is a very high degree of cooperation between the Galactic Federation and the US administration.
Wow, thank you very much. Colonel Lennox, you've got an extensive military background, and you've had your own personal sightings and experience and some good resources. Why do you think, should people fear this disclosure? And if so, why?
I don't think people should fear it. I think what we have is a very interesting challenge, because we have people on this planet who have created fear in the lives of people. Fear of blacks, fear of Orientals, fear of people who speak a different language, fear of Indians, just fear in general. So what those same people do is create fear of the Galactic Federation. They create fear of the off-world, not realizing that the technology that will come to them, in particular, I'm going to say QFS, I would say that 95% of QFS was created off-world, was not created in the United States, was not created around this planet, because the people who have created financial systems in the last 100 years have all created things with back doors. And when I say back doors, I mean a way to steal money. And the QFS, you can't do that. So when we start talking about the value of being with the Galactic Federation and those planetary elements that are part of the Federation, what we're talking about is technology to help humankind and to eliminate the fears that people live with. My thoughts.
Yeah, well said. And we certainly could use all the help we can get. And when you take a look at what we've done as a race, we've done a lot of good things, but boy, are we a mess. And we certainly need some help to transform how we live together here on this planet in terms of resources, lack of scarcity versus abundance, and peace versus war. So, yeah, I for one welcome all the help we can get from, well, I'll say the other side, even though they're here. I'm going to skip ahead here. I think we have a clip to my producer about, run clip that I sent just a moment ago, and let's have the panel discuss this clip.
The Department of War has quite literally taken on the running of its own covert operation to intercept these mystery objects. And I'm told they have recently downed objects, craft, both in the US and across the border near Juarez in Mexico. I am also told by White House sources that President Trump has personally authorized this operation, which perhaps explains why no full admission has yet been made to the public about the full extent of what the government really knows. There is a full-on effort underway by the administration to recover suspected non-human intelligence exotic technology in a program totally separate from the so-called legacy program. This is an attempt by the president to circumvent the legacy program. It's been run out of the White House by the president's most senior intelligence advisors. President Trump has tasked the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, to find out what these objects are and to capture them. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence, OVNI, is also involved. Sources have told me that one of the directed energy weapon systems used at White Sands in an attempt to shoot down these mystery craft is what's called high pulse microwave. It shuts down an aircraft by emitting an intense burst of electromagnetic energy that travels at the speed of light, penetrates the aircraft, and fries its electronic systems. My sources tell me that the craft, objects, UAPs, whatever you want to call them, are being targeted over White Sands, and they definitely show anomalous properties conforming to the 5 observables that define UAPs.
So the president's soundbite summary here, as I see it, is giving the authority to the Department of War to shoot down UFOs. What do you make of this information, Dr. Sala?
Well, this is a case of reinventing the wheel, because UFO craft have been shot down using directed energy weapons for many decades. The craft that have been retrieved have been taken to corporate-run facilities for study and reverse engineering. And over time, the US military has played less and less of a role in the study and in the possession of these craft. And so this is where the present problem lies, because these legacy corporations that control all of the UFO material that has been recovered in the NHI, they are not sharing that with the Trump administration. So what the Trump administration is doing is that it's utilizing the recent deployment of directed energy weapons to the US military. Over the last several years, you see that the Navy and the Air Force have been developing and deploying directed energy weapons. So what the Trump administration is doing is getting the military to deploy some of these directed energy weapons for use against UFOs that are summoned down. And what that means is that what's been revealed by one of the whistleblowers who recently came forward, that's Jacob Barber, he said that he was part of a program, and he had set up something similar himself, where he and a small team would psychically summon a extraterrestrial spacecraft that would appear, and then they would communicate with it. That was one of the methods that the legacy UFO program was using to shoot them down. So the Trump administration has authorized sympathetic or supportive members of the military to do this, because a lot of the military is out of the loop now, because a lot of these secrets are controlled by the corporate run legacy UFO program, who really keep not only the president and Congress, but also large segments of the US military in the dark.
Thank you, sir. Colonel Lennox, do you care to contribute to this? While we have the Galactic Federation and other entities that have been helping us over the decades, as I've come to learn, and are part of the alliance, as you gentlemen just spoke about. But we also have some concerns. I guess like anything else on this planet, there's good and there's evil, right? And so the president's ordering the ability to shoot down these things. What's your take on this from again, your military background?
My take would be that yes, he would, if they're known non-cooperative UFOs. And if their movement is towards the Khazarians in Israel, definitely would shoot them down. If their movement is towards those government-funded corporations that Eisenhower warned us about, I would say we shoot them down. Because what we don't want is a whole bunch of corporations, and I experienced this in Vietnam many years ago, the corporations trying to run things, lots of things. And the challenge is that those corporations, and I could name a whole handful of them, the reason we're trying to stop wars is those corporations live on war. They want war because they can put 500,000 people on the ground in Vietnam, along with 500,000 soldiers, and they can make a hell of a lot of money. By a hell of a lot, I mean a hell of a lot. So it's all about the money for them. And if we can, there are many things that the technologies that we will receive from our galactic friends, there are many things that could change our world for the better. Many, many things. And those corporations don't want that to happen. That's why they won't release the information. Just my thoughts on that.
Well, that makes a whole lot of sense and explains a lot for me. I'm just curious, Tom, what do you think that these partners in the Galactic Federation, part of the Alliance, and the Alliance folks, of course, we're talking about here, we've got our military and other militaries that have been very busy across this planet over the last many years here, rescuing the children and taking all the stolen things back and so forth and so on. But we have, I guess my question, Tom, is do you think at some point these entities, individuals, aliens, whatever they are, on the Galactic Federation, will be shown to us? We'll see them on camera. We'll see them at meetings with the president. Am I out in lunacy land, or is that something that could happen a little bit down the line?
I believe it could happen, and I believe it's going to happen, because what we have to do is, if we're going to ascend to that level where when I was 18, I wanted to study transcendental meditation. And what we're talking about is the ability to communicate without having to use words.
Mhm.
And in order to do that, we have to accept the fact that our Galactic Federation partners can, in fact, speak that way.
Mhm.
And understanding that, and understanding the various levels of capability that we have in our brain that's been forced down, that we can be communicating exactly the same way. And it's possible, probable, and I don't think too far from now. Too far,
Thank
meaning
you.
in the next couple of years.
Thank you, sir. It
Not
reminds
for
me
all
of.
of us.
Go
And
ahead.
not for all of us, some of us. All of us won't get there at the same time.
Understood. Reminds me of our good friend. I know you know Colonel Chuck Sellers. We had Chuck Sellers on the second episode here in Off World, who shared with us in great detail his experience of extraterrestrials morphing, if you will, through his home and messaging him. And to the point that you just raised, they spoke in great detail, showing him the history of the world and many messages and things, all very peacefully and very positive, but they spoke telepathically, to your point that you just mentioned, that with the transcendental meditation rising above, the only way of communicating via the vocal cord. Dr. Sala, you want to jump in on this and any angle that inspires you?
Yes, I think we already are seeing signs that the Trump administration is going to be making some announcement very soon concerning the existence of extraterrestrial life. People have been talking about a speech that he's been that has been prepared, revealing that these UFOs have been crashing and that NHI have been recovered. And there's a particular meme that twice President Trump has circulated on his Truth channel, and that is him walking side by side with a tall grey alien who's in shackles. And I think that's very deliberate, and I kind of think that what it does indicate is that the way in which the Trump administration is going to reveal the existence of extraterrestrial life is do it in a way that promotes confidence that the American military is in control. Because when you look at that meme of Trump standing side by a tall grey alien, and you've got Secret Service agents surrounding them all, and the alien is in shackles, what it shows is that, one, extraterrestrial life is real. Two, what it shows is that they shouldn't be feared because this alien is in shackles. And so it's not some all-powerful demon that's going to take over our planet. And three, it really does show that you have all these Secret Service agents surrounding it, and that President Trump is in control of the situation. So trust in Trump. So while normally you would think the announcement that extraterrestrial life is real would shock the public and could create a societal breakdown, as first theorized in the 1961 Brookings report, I think what we are going to witness is a very controlled disclosure where the American public is going to be told the truth that extraterrestrials exist, but it'll be done in a way that maximizes confidence in the Trump administration and that they're in control of it all.
That makes a lot of sense. And to our viewers, if you watch episode 2 and episode 1 with Alex Collier, for that matter, of Off-World, we ran those very images that Dr. Sala is talking about the alien in chains and various other images, some maybe not fully, maybe AI generated to message us, and others perhaps the real images don't know. But I encourage you, if you missed episodes 1 or 2, to go watch that, and you'll see those images in the commentary from our guests there. Dr. Sala, time travel, 0-point energy, no gravity, all of these types of things. Reality, not reality. Do we have these? Will we get more of it? How will it change things? Any comments about these sort of things?
Well, time travel is a topic of great interest to me, because I've come across many whistleblowers or experiences who say that they've been exposed to these time travel experiments that have been run out of various facilities. The Montauk facility on Long Island is one in particular, where people say that they were subjected to some of these experiments. And I think time travel is a byproduct of the exotic propulsion systems that extraterrestrials use, that when you're creating these very powerful torsion fields where you're circulating plasma at very high velocities around a craft, not only does the craft lose weight, creating this kind of anti-gravity effect, or making it possible for the craft to be propelled at very high velocities because the weight is reduced down to negligible amounts, but it also distorts time. And so it makes it possible to be able to go back and forward in time. And this is where you get into the field of tachyons, because there's references to propulsion systems that were developed by the Germans back in the Second World War, where they were experimenting with these tachyons, and that they were being helped in their efforts to develop their own kind of reverse engineered reverse engineered spacecraft, and that they were experimenting with these tachyon drives, which would make it possible for them to travel to distant locations and arrive there before they depart, which is, when you think about it, that is quite a revolutionary idea. And apparently that this is one of the principles that the Germans used in developing their own secret space program, that the captains, before they set off on a mission, that they would wait for themselves to return from the mission, and then they would start and they would head off.
Wow. Well, thanks for that education and clarification on some points there. Colonel Lennox, any contribution to the time travel and zero energy and these matters that you'd like to share with us?
Time travel, it's my understanding, and I haven't studied enough of it, but Nikola Tesla allegedly time traveled. I believe Nikola Tesla was not from this world. I think he was an off-world person brought here to offer us technology, because we're starting to use some of his technology from the 1890s. So I believe he time traveled.
Okay.
I also believe Donald Trump has time traveled. And the reason I believe that is he knows what's going to happen before it happens.
Winning.
And yeah, and his uncle gave him all of Tesla's technology, 6,000 different items, one of which I'm sure was the time travel capability. And he's got all of that hidden away in Cheyenne Mountain. So
I thought at some point, go ahead.
Zero energy is another thing that Nikola Tesla did. He could create buildings that needed no energy from outside. The Tartarians did the same thing. All those spired churches were zero energy sources. The pyramids are zero energy sources. So when we start to look at those things, yeah, there is zero energy. And you and I should never be paying for energy because it's all around us. Go hug a tree if you want some energy. So.
Yeah, understood. You know, you talked about time travel and the president. There's a lot of, I haven't studied it because I'm focusing on other elements of our battles right now and our victories. But Baron Trump, you know, the young son of the First Lady and the President, there's a lot of interesting anomalies. I'll use that word as our entry point concerning Baron Trump. And do you know anything about that? Have you come across anything, Tom? And then we'll go to Dr. Sala afterwards.
Well, I've come across a couple of things that say Melania Trump is, one, she's the Tsar's descendant, but two, she's off of Venus. And that would tell me that Baron Trump has a whole lot that you and I would never understand. The estimate is an IQ somewhere around 195 to 200 for Baron Trump and Donald Trump and Melania.
Yes. I didn't.
So when we see that, you know, Baron Trump understands more than 99% of the children his age. So, yeah.
Thank you. Yep.
It's a whole different
Fascinating.
world.
It sure is. And you can see that. I mean, I think we all observed young Baron back in 2017, and then we watched him grow. Certainly a few stellar captured moments on camera at inauguration and some other events. He's definitely got the attention of my attention, certainly, and I believe of the American people. And I think he's going to be a major player, more so than he is now behind the scenes. I think he'll be more on the front end a little down the road. That's just my opinion. Dr. Sala, Colonel Lennox unpacked a lot there. Tesla, perhaps off-world. Certainly his 6,000 patents left to Donald Trump's uncle, MIT professor, and a lot of suppressed technologies so that the deep state, the evil folks of the world, can profit off of things they should never have profited off of. And now we're at a period of time where all of that is changing. How would you like to jump in on this, on Baron Trump, time travel, and anything that we just unpacked with Tom?
Yes, well, I think that the Colonel's correct that Nikola Tesla was very much involved in the early time travel experiments that were being conducted by the US Navy. The Philadelphia experiment is a good example of that some of his patents would have observed temporal anomalies arising when you generate high voltage electrostatics, which would have been part of the design of the craft, the spacecraft, the patent that he took out. And what's interesting is that Professor John Trump, the uncle of President Trump, when he was at MIT, that he was given the task by the FBI to explore the Tesla papers to identify anything that was of national security interest, and they took away the best stuff and allowed the rest to be taken away. So, that does raise the very interesting possibility that the Trump family early on were exposed to this kind of time-traveling technology. So that brings us to the question of Baron Trump. And there's an author who wrote a series of books in the late 1800s, early 1900s, that concerned a character, Baron Trump, who was able to do these incredible things, and time travel, as I recall, was one of those things. And the same author also wrote a book called The Last President. And that book talked about a time when there would be this final president of the United States, that the United States would dissolve. And so what we are facing now with the announcement of not just that extraterrestrial life is real, but that the Earth is going to enter into this new phase of becoming an interplanetary and even an interstellar society, and that the United States is very likely going to expand in a way where President Trump may well be the last president of the 50 states that make up the United States. But if you have other countries, and we're talking about Canada, Greenland, Mexico, possibly even Israel, joining an expanded United States that would have this kind of leading role in taking the Earth into this kind of interplanetary, interstellar civilizational phase, then I think time travel is very important, and the Trump family is pretty much right in the center of that. And I'm not even mentioning the Q movement, which also was linked to time travel.
Wow. Well, elaborate on that, if you will, sir, before we unload Tom Lennox. Talk about that last statement, the Q. Can you elaborate a little bit on Q and time travel, or whatever aspect you want to bring to the table?
Well, the Q movement, as many are aware, emerged in the first Trump administration in 2017, and very quickly people analyzing the posts determined that this was a military intelligence operation, and there were frequent references to future proves past, and references to time travel, and what was emerging was that this Q movement, or the people behind the Q posts, that they were using time travel technology. We know one of those technologies is called a chronovisor, and actually that was mentioned in one of the Q posts, that this chronovisor gives the ability to be able to see into the future. And so the Q movement was using that to really awaken the American public and the world public to the existence of this pedophile, satanic worshipping global elite that for many decades, even centuries, have been using all of these advanced technologies, including time travel, to be able to manipulate the rest of humanity and to use its mass media resources to get humanity to collectively manifest world wars, starvation, poverty, and so forth. And so the Q movement flipped that around, because the Q movement was using time travel technology to give information about what the future was going to be or could be. And it inspired hundreds of thousands, even millions of people around the world to collectively manifest this future, so that the timeline that the pedophile satanic elite wanted to take us down, which would have been World War III, poverty, destruction, control, manipulation, has been replaced by this new positive timeline where humanity would openly start working with extraterrestrial civilizations. The Galactic Federation would eventually openly reveal itself, and we would become partners and members of the Federation, and we would become an interstellar civilization with all of these advanced technologies being revealed.
Oh, wow. Thank you for interweaving all of that, and especially the Q boards. Future proves past. You know, Q, of course, the greatest open source military intelligence operation of our time. And in my opinion, without that having been deployed, we would not be as advanced in this war here as we are. So and fascinating. I want to, well, let's go to Tom Lennox, and then I want to come back to you, sir, Dr. Sal, talk about the last president. But Tom, how would you like to weigh in on all that was just unpacked? There's quite a bit there. Yeah, we're all ears, sir.
I laugh because my wife keeps telling me about the last president.
Mm-hmm.
She and I keep going back and forth. Yes, I would say that we will add multiple countries to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, our friend Ricardo has said Australia will become part of the United States because we own all of its stock. It was sold on the stock exchange. Greenland, Canada, Mexico, I think parts of Latin America, good chance El Salvador, because they're taking all our prisoners and putting them in jail. And that president seems to be right on tune with Trump. It's hard to say. We know the Russia will have control over a lot of Europe, no doubt. China will have a control over a large part of the Orient. And Brazil will probably at some point have control over all of South America. That's just speculation, but the reality is all these little countries, they need to work together. They're going to be working together. And in order for them to work together, they're going to become part of one bigger country, one wealthier country. And then what you see is that those 5 or 6, whatever it comes out to be, because Africa will be also probably South Africa. But when you start seeing that, then you see an opportunity for us to become a close partner with the Galactic Federation. Because we've eliminated the fear, which is the biggest problem we have, is fear. People have been taught to fear everything. And we've got to eliminate that. And I think one of the things that will help do that is when QFS is fully implemented. Because then people won't fear for money. And that fear is the big one that's been driven by all of the deep state, is that fear for money. I think that covers my thought process there.
Well, thank you. I want to comment on that fear factor. That's not a small issue, folks. That's a big deal, and we got to kill the spirit of that fear. And I think that as we're evolving and ascending, ultimately, is what this is all about in one way or another. The fears will become a thing of the past. You mentioned something very important there. Scarcity. We've been put into a world by design of scarcity, right? You got to have those little green pieces of paper or money, whatever country your color your money is, color of money. To eat. I got to pay to get free, to get energy. All of the basic necessities for survival won't be a challenge for us in the very near future with QFS and high universal income that Elon Musk talks about, and the repatriation of the stolen tax wealth from the illegal and unconstitutional three-letter organization that begins with an I in the Federal Reserve. And so we have all that, but what I see here as I'm listening to each of you is, you got layers of transition. I don't think it's a far stretch to say that the Democrat Party has been fully exposed, and the Republican Party as well. And I think it's a fair statement to say that there's a narrative out there that says the Democrat Party come the next general election may not even exist with all that's about to happen between now and then. Then you're talking about, so the disruption of the two-party system. You've got Fauci in the hot seat right now, or 2.0 Fauci, whatever that is. You have that unfolding before the world today, and that's going straight to Gitmo, in my humble opinion, and all of that exposure taking place. I'm tying a few things together here, taking place, and the awareness level of people coming, realizing what was done to us the world over. And finally, justice will be served, and we'll see Nuremberg 2.0 from Gitmo and other military-based points. Then you have, at the same time, although a little quiet right now, but silence in our PSYOP information war doesn't mean no action. In fact, silence means a lot of action. And what's taking place, in my humble opinion, behind the scenes is, of course, the election theft. That narrative is being raised responsibly right now by this operation, and will build up. The Pfizer abuse, the gentleman from Comey on down in the FBI that created the whole hoax under the administration of Barry Soetoro or Barack Hussein Obama. All roads lead to Obama, as stated by our president. The punishment for treason is execution, and I don't mind saying all these things. I'm only paraphrasing the president himself at pressers and at meetings. So when you look at the exposure of both the Democrat and Republican Party, wondering, will these two-party things exist come next general election? I think that's an interesting subject. Then when you take all of I just threw out there, and then you take it the next step, which each of you have done, is that we're working with we'll call it the off-world entities. And so the last president is what I'm leading to. I believe that as I do my best attempt to loosely connect the dots here, we have some extraordinary things taking place here that on the typical political Republican Democrat discussions would call us all insane. But of course, we're not, and we're onto something here. I believe the two-party system in my lifetime will be gone. I think sooner than later. I believe that we will very much be seeing the last president as we know it. And you've done, each of you, a great job at leading me to this diatribe here, if you will, because I'm fascinated by it all. Dr. Sala, any comments? And Tom, just open it up. I'm going to bring on Bob Wayne in just a moment.
Yes, well, I think what we're talking about is what happens in a post-disclosure world. What happens when the existence of extraterrestrial life is announced, and then what that will raise is the really critical national security issues concerning the existence of extraterrestrial life, the existence of advanced, very dangerous technologies that can be used either for positive upliftment of humanity or for very destructive means. And so that will create an imperative to centralize governments around the world. And so you're going to have the formation of blocks. I think at the very least we're going to have the United States forming a block of nations that all are under the authority of the US political system. And so this is where the last president comes in. It'll be something different to the US as it's currently constituted, because these other countries will be joining, and as the Colonel said, even countries like Australia would probably be become part of the United States, or this kind of political group. And similarly, you would have Russia, you would have China, Brazil, India, but I think you would have like a centralization where you would have a half a dozen political groupings that would basically ensure that these technologies are developed and deployed in a responsible way. Because the last thing you would want is rogue nations like Iran, Iraq, North Korea, going their own way with these technologies. Because imagine, just for example, and this pertains to Iran at the present, that the Iranians have found these portal systems that they can open up and have these off-world beings come in. So think of the national security or global security implications for having a country like Iran bringing in tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of warriors from some other world who can fight much more powerfully, or they're just equipped in ways using technologies that would make it very difficult for conventional Earth militaries to deal with. So that's where you would really want to have political groupings that would make sure that these advanced technologies like portals or like AI are not used irresponsibly by rogue actors or terrorist forces. So I think that's where we're heading. And so it's very possible that President Trump will be the last president of the United States as it's currently known.
I'm tracking with you completely. And boy, we're all going to be watching this unfold, because that's the big picture, folks. There's a lot of good dots connected from these great guests. Thank you both very much. Colonel Lennox, your comment before we bring on Bob Wayne. Anything you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, the comment about Iran, we're not in Iran about nuclear. We're not in Iran about oil. We're in Iran about the portals and closing them. We're also going to do the same thing in the rest of the Middle East, because the largest number of portals in the world is in the Middle East, from what I understand.
Wow. Okay.
And so closing the portals, they've done a lot for the Khazarians on closing the portals. Because if you have the portal, they can go both ways. They can escape or they can come back. You don't want them to escape because you don't want them to be able to come back. So when we're in Iran, we're actually doing some really interesting things relative to portals and escape routes for others. Anyway, that's my 2 cents worth on that subject. And I think we will go down to 5 or 6 large organizations to keep the little guys from going off and fighting. At one point in my life, there were 250 wars being fought every day. And most people don't realize how big that was. All kinds of people fighting each other. No reason for it other than money. And when we have QFS, and when we've taken the fear out of people for their elections, and we've taken the fear out of people for the education process. And then I believe we will get close. It's going to take a while. All change takes time. And I learned that from changes I recommended that took 10 years to go into place.
Mhm. Well, thank you. Fascinating discussion. Everything's changing, folks, and can't change fast enough. Thank you very much. I'd like to, if you gentlemen can stand by in the digital green room, we'll have you join the panel in a minute. We're going to witness some sightings from Bob Wayne and have you gentlemen weigh in on that, and then we'll conclude our broadcast. Bob Wayne was raised on several military bases from Texas to Alaska, where he saw three Kushtaka Bigfoot walking together back in 1982. Since then, he sailed back in 2016 to explore more of Alaska. Then after going through two near-death experiences and very serious attacks from the left, he reluctantly left Alaska in 2019 and found that he got CPTSD in the process. As he was struggling one day in 2021, he prayed and repented over his Bible with incredible pain in his heart from childhood trauma to the new trauma added. And then his voice came screaming, his voice, H-I-S caps, his voice came screaming through his head, repeating over and over, love, 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 as he was literally showered in light. Everything opened up, and after that, including seeing various dimensions, all documented on video, from plasma beings with clear images of purple plasma crowns, insectoids, which Jesse Waters had spoken about in previous episodes, to a large Federation ship near the moon in broad daylight, to portals, dragons, and things in the clouds that defy imagination. Please welcome Bob Wayne.
Hello there. How are you doing,
Thank
John?
you for being here. I'm good. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Traveling around our beautiful landscape in America. You know, I'm going to turn the airwaves over to you. Well, let's start here, Bob. Any comments or opinions and views that you'd like to share with us on everything you've been listening to in the first hour of this episode?
Oh boy, I could go on and on with what I heard there. Boy, good stuff. I have actually videoed. I've got a screenshot of a TR-3B. I mean, I could go on and on. The moon. I filmed a. I mean, I could go on. I filmed a being flash across the moon with my iPhone with a weak pair of binoculars. And if the moon is hundreds of thousands of miles away, then how am I able to do that with my iPhone? And so once I made that conclusion, and you have not seen the images yet of the being that I filmed. It's very clear.
Why don't we put up the image?
Where does it end?
Yeah,
Okay.
Bob, let's do this.
Yeah.
You've submitted some good footage. Why don't we go one clip at a time and have you discuss that for us? Thank you, sir.
Okay.
To our producer, let's put up the first image. All right, Bob, unpack that for us, please. Where were you, time of day, location on the planet, and anything else? That's an incredible clip. Talk with us about that, please.
All right. So I had heard of a SETI ranch, and it really interested me from the videos that I had seen. So I took a trip over to SETI ranch. It was about 111 miles away from my home. Quick trip. And that's when I first saw my first light beings on the mountain. And I thought, wow. And I brought my homemade device with me, one of them. and I was actually able to get some really good images there. And then I found a private location off the ranch where I could film too and get a lot closer. And the things I saw are just mind blowing. So when I went back home in southern Washington, I noticed on one of the mountains near where I lived also had light beams on it. And at first I thought, well, maybe it could be, you know, some people walking along some trails with some flashlights. I've been up there, you know, a few times. And once I started viewing these things, oh no, they're not, those are not humans at nighttime, all hours, walking along this mountain with flashlights. And so when I started looking closer, even is when I started really making out detail on some of these beings. And in the next clips that you're going to show, you'll see some real clear images. But this particular one here I filmed, I get callings when to film. I get callings when to film, where to point, and I capture all kinds of crazy things all the time, all the time. So I don't know, I got a calling in the morning. I got
Go
a
ahead.
calling in the morning
Continue.
about maybe about 5 in the morning to go out and film the mountain. I've never filmed it that early. And that's when I saw this being coming around and moving slowly like they do. And you could see ahead of it, the ground started to light up and glow. And what it was doing, it was activating that portal and circling around for it, and went right inside of the thing. And I filmed the whole thing. It was shocking as heck to see that.
I bet. Well, thank you for sharing that. Let's put up the next image and see what Bob can unpack for us here to our producer. Thank you.
Starlink filmed.
Short and sweet, but fascinating. What's going on there? When was that? Where was that? Backfill it for us, if you will.
All right. So that was the very first thing that I filmed with my new device I had built. It was a very simple device, basically a pair of binoculars attached to an iPhone and a tripod. I built it. I got some kind of calling, you know, that early in the morning that day, and I built the thing. I'm a fabricator, so I built it pretty quick. I had it all built by noon. And when it came to that evening, I thought, what the heck? I'm going to go outside and see what I can film. And right up above me, I saw this streak of lights coming my way in a hurry. Okay. I mean, directly over me. Where I had to, you know, it's really hard to talk when your head's, you know, pointed straight up like that. And to try and I was struggling to try and get it into frame. I could not get it in frame. I'm struggling. And finally I got it in frame. I'm all excited. And all of a sudden I bumped the tripod with my foot. And that's what caused the wobbly footage as they're passing by. But now when I looked at them, you couldn't see the streaks of the fire that they were leaving behind. You just see the clear images of these things. And to me, from what I've heard after looking at these things, it may sound weird, I don't know. I've heard these terms mantas, I've heard these terms ant people, I've heard these terms insectoids. What I believe is, at first I thought it was Starlink. No, that was not Starlink, because what I think that was is what some people are referring to as called mantas. They look like manta rays, I guess. I don't know.
Thank you, Bob. I'd like to bring Dr. Sala. Thank you. So Dr. Sala and Colonel Lennox on and have these gentlemen comment on what Bob has just said. To our producer, if we can go 4-panel, would be great. Thank you. Thank you for being back, gentlemen. You know, we saw images from Jesse Waters, which was direct from the Department of War. And now we have, you know, one of our fellow patriots and citizens of the United States going about the country and capturing the fascinating images, particularly the latter part of what Bob just said. I'm not familiar with that term, mantas or whatever. Dr. Sala, what's your opinion or analysis or contribution to what Bob has shared with us verbally and on those images?
Well, with the first image showing a craft going into an area associated with a mountain, that's very indicative of many civilizations from other worlds that they establish bases in mountains. And in that kind of like you've got the Cascade Mountains in that region of Washington State, and so those are dormant or extinct volcanoes. So these are very powerful energy centers connected to the core of the planet. And so that's one of the things that the extraterrestrials use for replenishing their power. And also you've got very large cavern systems there, so it's easy for them to establish bases. So this is, I think, probably a craft belonging to one of those civilizations that was photographed, that was looking like it was entering into an area where there was an entryway into one of these mountain bases.
Interesting. Thank you, sir. My producer just alerted me. We have 5 more images submitted by Bob. Let's put up the next image and have Colonel Lennox, Bob, and Dr. Sala weigh in on that. Okay. And one more image, if you will, please. Okay, Bob, what are we looking at in these 2 images?
All right. This one's wild, and I have so many more wild ones, but to keep it short with these, there I am with my camera again, and I was just guided to film this cloud right off of my deck. And I did, and I zoomed in. And so when I came, I recorded that cloud for maybe about 30 seconds. I came back in to review it, and I kind of played it frame by frame in a couple of little areas when I saw something streak by, and I saw a little white streak, and then I saw another white streak. When I saw the second white streak, it looks like what some people refer to as an image right there. When that image appeared is when I saw everything else here, including the being with the 2 antennas, wearing an arm. He's inside of he's on the outside of crystal structure that looks like it's exposed, and you can see rooftop. I know it's so weird. You see rooftops in there even. It's so wild. So, but
Thank you. Let's take a look at the next image to our producer. What's this? Backfill this for us, if you will.
Okay. Now, these are some of those light beings I was talking about, like the one that entered the portal. These are the ones that look like people walking around with flashlights around this mountain at nighttime. But when I go in with my camera and I zoom in and go look at particular frames, these are the images that are being captured here. And these are kind of these echoes. I don't know people talking about echoes, but they're very fascinating. I have an image of one that has a purple crown, like a king's crown. It's so crazy. This is what I'm going to is it.
Thank you. We're getting a little bit of Wi-Fi interruption, but we got most of what you said. Let's go through the remaining images to my producer. I think there should be 2 left. There's another one in that same vein, and one more image. Was this the image we saw originally before? Just a still shot of it?
That's a still shot of it. So, we could see what, the shape of these things and what they really look like.
Thank you, Bob. Let's go back to the 4 panel and any contributions or comments. We'll go with Colonel Lennox of Bob's discoveries, his witnessing that he's captured for us and now for the world to see. What do you make of all this?
Not being a camera person, but having looked at the image, the first one where the light beam actually went inside the woods or the mountain, I believe that was going into a portal, as Bob said. The others look like capturing instantaneous occurrences across the universe, and knowing that Washington State has a lot of history inside of one of its mountains, I would say that we're looking at the movement of organizations in and out of those mountains.
And they're not here sightseeing. They must be here
Right.
for a reason.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. You bet. Dr. Sala, any new narrative that you'd like to raise as we conclude our program, and/or comments on Bob's discoveries there?
Well, I think one of the things we want to consider is anything that he captured in those films, like interdimensional beings, because they're going to behave and look in ways that are very, very different. So those light beings that he captured, I mean, that's probably where we might say, well, are these interdimensional beings that are coming from another dimension into ours, and so they don't really need a craft or anything like we would if we're traveling somewhere, but they're able to come from one dimension into another. So that's another aspect of this overall phenomenon, that we're not just talking about craft from other worlds or from the inner earth. We're also talking about these beings that can actually come into our reality by shifting from one dimension into another.
Fascinating. Thank you, sir. Colonel Lennox, any closing comments or observations before we go to Bob?
I find it all extremely interesting. And Dr. Sala's comment that it could be people moving dimensionally, I have recently heard about some individual who moved dimensions and then realized he had to come back because it was not where he wanted to be. So, yeah.
You know, yeah, what you gentlemen just spoke about, it reminds me of some of the Rod Serling episodes back in the Twilight Zone days. And also, we got to invoke Gene Roddenberry here. I mean, this is a time to go back and watch the original, in my opinion, Star Trek television series. And when you talk about the Galactic Federation earlier, and going where no man has gone before, and all the different things that were shown to us through the brilliant work of Roddenberry and the Star Trek team. You know, I'm inspired actually to go to have an Apple account. I would assume at this point one could buy every one of those episodes and stream them. I have all the Twilight Zones and have done that. I'm going to look into the Star Treks and to get me in the zone for the next month's episode. Bob, any closing comments before we wrap up the broadcast?
Yeah, I would like to send you a film clip of a phoenix flying out of Mount Etna. I have it on video. Actually, that one I recorded off of a webcam. When they realized I found that I caught that and started posting it, they scrubbed the video from the internet. In the same location where the veils to the upper dimensions are very thin, I've witnessed and filmed dragons with tails. I have the videos. I've seen, like I said, I've filmed a TR-3B. They're so fast. I'm so surprised I caught it in a frame. And the big one was the Galactic Federation ship. I'm going to go ahead and say it is a Federation ship. It was right next to the moon. It was beautiful. It was a big white, like hub-like ship, classic type ship with the spokes and everything. I saw that. I had a choice. I had a choice to run and grab my phone and video it, or I had a choice to yell at my mother and say, "Get out here now and come look at this thing before it disappears." My mother was closer. She was able to see it before it faded off. So there's a lot going out there. I have a lot of stuff I'd like to share and go further into detail maybe one day. But thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it so much. And I look forward to seeing where things are going to go.
Well, thank you. And to our producer, you know, let's stay in touch with Bob. I would like another cameo appearance in the next Off-World episode next month, which, by the way, Alex Collier will also be joining us as well. And we don't have the complete schedule yet for next month. But Dr. Sala, if your schedule permits, we'd love to have you back next month on this Off-World with us as well. Bob, in terms of those other footage, let's see if we can unscrub what they scrubbed and get that back out there. So thank you for sharing with us your journey. And let's go full screen with Bob. I noticed 3 things I want to bring our audience attention to. When you think of a patriot, his room's filled with some patriotic stuff. I believe what I'm looking at on the upper right shoulder of Bob is the Commander's Artist. I believe I'm looking at General Flynn's 5th Generational Warfare, and of course the Holy Bible. So you're looking at a man with a cowboy hat with 3 wonderful patriotic and truths sitting in his desk, and he's bringing a lot of those truths to us with the footage that he has shared, and we greatly appreciate it. We'll go to the full screen here, if we will, to 4-panel. Dr. Sala, what's the best way for people to follow you and your work beyond this broadcast, and share with our viewers your series of you've written over a dozen books. Talk with us about how people can further connect with you, the new folks that aren't already following you.
Yes, people can just go to my website, exopolitics.org. That's exopolitics.org, and they'll find my books there. I've written 14. The secret space programs, that's the ones that deals with all these reverse engineered technologies. And I just wanted to mention in this particular book, Space Force, Our Star Trek Future, it has a chapter in there about Gene Roddenberry. That Gene Roddenberry was actually read in to the space program that the Navy was already developing at the time, and may in fact either directly or through a very close associate, Leslie Stevens the fourth, actually been exposed to the existence of the Galactic Federation. So the thing to keep in mind is that the United Federation of Planets was not necessarily a figment of Roddenberry's imagination, but may in fact have been modeled on the same Galactic Federation that President Trump is now working with.
That's fascinating. I'm in Thailand. My viewers know that. But I assume I can go to Amazon and pick up a copy of that book. Is there a digital copy available? Because sometimes there's shipping issues to Thailand. Yeah, I'm going to explore that and perhaps start thumbing through the pages of that. If you join us next month, we'll certainly visit some of those subjects. But thank you, Dr. Sala, for being here. You're a great wealth of knowledge on this very important topic, whose time has come. Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox, any closing comments? Let's go full screen with a double panel with Tom. For folks that would like to reach out to the Colonel, there it is up on the screen, tlennox99@gmail.com. It's on the screen for you. Not sure Tom can answer all your responses, but any closing comments from you, Colonel Lennox?
I will tell you, I have thoroughly enjoyed this, John. And I didn't realize exactly where we were going to go, but
Neither did I.
It really interesting. And I think you're on the right track. Absolutely
Thank you,
the
sir.
right track.
Thank you, sir.
Really,
Colonel, yes?
That's it for me.
Beautiful.
Enjoyed it.
Colonel Tom Lennox has joined us on our Global Financial Reset show, where he's unpacked a lot of good information on QFS and other related matters. And he's a frequent guest in our second year now, Global Defense War Military Panel. Please visit my website, jmcbroadcasting.com. Click on contributors and take a look at all our contributors. You'll see Tom there and his extended bio as well. Again, I can't vouch for Tom being able to answer all the emails he gets, but you can certainly reach out to the Colonel, and the email's been published. Thank you very much. And Bob, I don't like to assume, but is there any link to you and the public, a Facebook page or someplace you'd like to direct the public to stay and follow you?
I post all my stuff on X under Bob Wayne, and you'll see me in the cowboy hat with kind of like a pink background.
Perfect. I can't thank you, gentlemen, enough. Go ahead.
I try to stay kind of low key with all this stuff that I have. It's a lot.
Well, after this broadcast, it's not so low key anymore, but thank you for sharing it all with us. I think it's important work, and God's got your back, sir. So we'll be fine through this journey together. I want to conclude our show. We'll salute Colonel Tom Lennox and a respectful salute to everybody here. Thank you all for being here. Great episode. All I can express is my gratitude and appreciation for you sharing your knowledge, your facts, your experiences, and your commentary and analysis of this extraordinary time in human history, a time that has now arrived. And thank goodness for that. And thank goodness for our Commander-in-Chief, President Donald J. Trump. Thank you all very much. I'd like to leave you to our audience with a song that I wrote called Powers of Light. And I wrote this in 1999, 2000, in that space, up in the mountains of Colorado, elevation about 8,000 where I lived, 8,000 feet, in a small place called Ouray, O-U-R-A-Y, named after Ute Indian Chief Ouray. I had a moment and experience there, which basically downloaded this song for me that I wrote called Powers of Light. The song is essentially about the ascension as we ascend from the gravity of our body to become one with the Creator and the light in this infinite universe. It's not about religion. I wrote the music, I wrote the song, I played the guitars, I even sung it. I'd rather get a better singer, but I want to just clear it up for the folks out there, because there's been some comments of people who have seen the video. It's really just about our ascension. I wrote the song, but I used AI to create the video. And so please don't misread the imagery in the video. The message is the ascension, which is what Christ taught us, is it not? All right. So it's not about religion, nor the expression of any particular religious beliefs. It's about ascending as one with our Creator, God, in the universe of light and love. I hope you enjoy it. Powers of Light. Thank you again to our incredible panel. And thank you, our viewers, for liking, following, and sharing our work. Stay safe, everyone. Enjoy the ride. Come on through the portal with us next month with Alex Collier and Bob Wayne. And hopefully Dr. Sala will tighten up the schedule and we'll make the announcements. Stay safe, everyone, and may God be with you.
Knowledge and wisdom instill for all, this shall be fulfilled. Off I go as an angel in flight, ascending, oh powers of light. You are, your true self shines as a star. I'm ascending as a spirit in flight. Oh, powers of light, powers of light. Century after century, truth now unfolds before me. Now I can see together as shines as a star. I'm ascending as a spirit in flight. Oh, powers of light. I am grateful for all that you are. Your true self shines as a star. I'm ascending as a spirit in flight. Oh, powers of light. I'm grateful for all that you are. Your true self shines as a star. I'm ascending as a spirit in flight. Oh, powers of light.